his arrogance was ultimately his downfall in many cases in this show.
And you are locked into another episode of the MLU podcast. My name is Josh. We are here week after week, making that intersection between faith and animation and delivering those redemptive analogies you've come to know and love. Before we get too far into the video, if you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and ring that bell so that you are notified every time we post a new video. And it is summer. It feels like it's been summer for the last few weeks, especially with the heat index and the cicada get-in, which thank God the cicadas are gone now. Mostly out of Tennessee. We said, go away. We don't want you anymore. And they left. Begrudgingly, though. But it is also the time for vacations and, family outings. But of course, as adults, we don't get summer vacation. But I want to bring in my lovely wife, Rebecca, to talk about one of her favorite pastimes in the summer, going on vacation and kind of sharing a little bit about that with you all. So without further ado, my lovely wife, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Now, Rebecca, your parents used to take you to the Nashville Zoo every summer. Isn't that right?
No, that is not right.
No. We
went to the Smoky Mountains every summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to the Smoky Mountains right around this time, actually. We went at the end of May for my mom's birthday is usually when we went. So it's like school had just gotten out, mom's birthday. We went to the Smokies and hung out, mostly because you can go into the national park for free. And we were living on a budget at the time. So that was always a fun way to celebrate birthday and not spend a lot of money, but also like go somewhere. So it was nice.
Yeah. Talking about being on a budget. I remember I was the one vacation a year as a kid. One vacation as a year. We went to Disney or we went to Islands of Adventure or some type of theme park.
Yeah, because you grew up in Florida.
I did.
So
and we got the Florida Citizen discount, so that always helped. But I remember you were telling me that your sisters and your parents had this big plastic Coke bottle.
Yeah.
That you filled up with change, and that basically was your fund to go to Disney.
Yeah, it was change and dollar bills that, we would throw in there. You know what's funny is they actually still sell those giant Coke bottles that you can put money in at Walmart. So funny. Blast from the past. I don't usually go to Walmart to buy things.
Yeah.
But yeah, walking through there fairly recently, I was like, oh my gosh, they still sell those things.
Well, we are bringing back the anime this week. We gave you guys a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks, but we just had to bring it back. And we have a guest who has recommended this anime to us. She is a singer, worship leader, and all around just very talented person. We have Kate Puckett with us. Kate, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about you? Were you the one vacation time of year kid, or what was your favorite all-time summer vacation?
Yeah, so I'm from Pittsburgh, and we would just do usually like one a year, or even every other year, depending on what our schedule was. But we actually came to Tennessee a lot on vacation, but we'd end up in Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg. So we kind of fell in love with the state. And when my mom and my sister and I were looking to move, music was one of the things that brought us here, but we were also like, Tennessee was pretty awesome. So we ended up here, and we usually would, travel back and forth until we moved permanently. So.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got a lot of people from Tennessee, especially people from California, a lot of northern states. People have lived out there that come to Tennessee. So we must be doing something right.
I mean, it's gorgeous here. You can't beat like the Smoky Mountains, and then Middle Tennessee has its ups too. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, it is beautiful. East Tennessee, though, I think has like really unique landscapes, or a really unique landscape. Because it gets more like, more mountainy, more, I don't know, it's just got a different feel to it. But yeah, there's a place for it all. The Middle Tennessee area reminds me a lot actually of the English countryside with the like rolling hills, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely see that. Yeah. Or at least it used to in our area, and now it's kind of getting built up. But
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So for our listeners who don't know, Kate, we actually go to the same church as the Pucketts. And so that's how we met. And Kate, you actually sang at our engagement when Josh proposed, which is so fun.
what was the song again? I can't. It was
Close to You, though, the Carpenters, yeah.
yes. I love that song.
I still forget what that song was. It was so beautiful, and I do love that song, but like, I don't remember.
Well, and even before that, some of you may not know that I actually produced a little public public access TV show in which Kate was one of their very first guests on.
Yep. Music City Corner.
Yes. And that seems like forever ago.
I mean, it kind of was forever ago. It was like 8 years ago.
Well, Kate, we want to have our audience get to know you a little bit better. So Rebecca is going to go ahead and ask you a few questions, and we will go from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, very basic. Just kind of give us a bit of your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and how does your faith play into your story?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, my testimony, I could go on and on, but I'll give the condensed version. I traveled to Tennessee to play Christian music, and I traveled with my band. And the band broke up shortly after we moved here. You know, we were really young. We all kind of parted ways and did our own projects. And I found myself in and out of different gigs, doing some background work, doing some, just studio stuff and different bands, cover bands, wherever I could sing. And eventually went solo and tried to be a pop artist. And I was, I told myself, I'm going to be a light in a dark place, and I want to go out into the world, and I want to, show Jesus to the world. And eventually, I got caught up in, I'd say just the worldliness of it all. And, I'm not very proud of, I made a lot of compromises because I thought, this is going to make me famous, and it's going to make me, fit in and be popular with this pop scene. And eventually the Lord kind of stopped me in my tracks and was like, you need to, the Holy Spirit was really heavy on me. Like, you need to make a decision. Like, you're not being a light in the world. You're just becoming of the world. And so I kind of stepped back from what I was doing, which was very difficult because I really felt like I was on the brink of, making something in that pop scene. And, I felt like, okay, I'm throwing away all this work and time that I spent trying to get to this place, and now I'm back down here. But the Lord has, revealed so much to me and blessed me in that decision, just with peace. That was not an easy decision to make, but I felt peace afterwards, and started our family after that, and started leading worship at church at Calvary Chapel. And that has been just so incredibly, like, it just brings me so much joy. And, before that, I never would have thought like I'd be content, not being a pop diva out there in the world, but he really has brought me so much contentment. And it's just such an honor just to get to serve at church and worship. And so then I started writing worship music, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a journey. It's awesome that you're writing worship music now. So how is that going? Do you have any songs that are you like marketing them out to churches or just kind of writing them for yourself, or how's that going?
I started in 2020 and started learning how to produce my own stuff, just because that was just a big part of stepping back and wanting to do my own thing and not be, having kids has slowed has slowed the progress down. It hasn't stopped it, and I fully believe that you can still pursue music, with a family and all of that. But I have a couple songs that I'm just about done with. We're putting the finishing touches. They just need some drum work on them, but hopefully this year. I was hoping to release them last year, and then we unexpectedly got pregnant, so that kind of put a stop to things, and we're, hopefully going to get them out soon.
That's awesome. Yay, congratulations. That's exciting. Yeah, nice to be able to move forward, and it looks different than what you thought. But yet, like you were saying, you're so content and you love where you are right now, even though it looks so different than what your past self was really interested in and thought success was. So what an amazing testimony.
Yeah, and to kind of bounce off on that, incredible story. Just kind of where you started. I think we all get to a point where our measure of success changes over time. Well, for our parents, it was owning a house, owning a car, having 2 or 3 kids, being married by a certain age. But now that level of that measure of success has greatly changed. It's for a lot of people, it's having no debt. For others, it's owning maybe not a house, but a car or a luxury item, or basically just having a safety net that God forbid things come up, you have an emergency fund. And a lot of other people, health is a measure of success. So good on you for coming out of that, recognizing being led by the Holy Spirit, because ultimately that is a great measure of success and a great measure of truth, in my opinion. And I think we would all agree on that.
Yeah, it reminds me of, while you were talking, Kate, it reminded me of Romans 12:2.
There you go, Romans again. Always
it's great.
Romans.
Okay. I love Romans. So yeah, where it's talking about don't be conformed by the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you can know the perfect will of God. And that just sounds like that is your story, that is really what happened for you. And so it's like that scripture living out, which is really cool to see.
That is a wonderful verse. He really can transform. If we give him our dreams and our lives, he can transform our dreams, and so it's not like you have to give up your dreams to follow Jesus. He really just changes the desires of your heart to be in line with what he wants for you and what is going to bring him glory. So it involves a change a lot of the time, but it doesn't mean that you have to give up on, having dreams.
Certainly. And the more that you're in tune with what you're being led by, the Holy Spirit in this case, the more that, as you say, Kate, your mind is going to transform and you're going to want to desire the things that, God wants for you. So it's not giving up. It's more that, you're kind of making a little bit of an exchange or so.
Yeah, a yielding to the Holy Spirit. Certainly. I think it's the verse in Proverbs. I think it's in Proverbs where it says the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. And for a long time, I thought it was just like, what you want, God wants for you. And that's just not what it's talking about. It's talking about when you yield yourself to the Lord, then he makes his desires your desires, and like it works. It's a symbiotic relationship, really. Mm-hmm. So getting back into music and singing, what even brought you to music and singing? What made you fall in love with it?
I think I've always had a love for music, and when I was a kid, I begged my mom for voice lessons because I didn't get a part in the 5th grade musical. I feel like I've heard that story a lot with people, but that's that's what happened. And it was really just, I want to be good at this. So I worked really hard at it. And like with production, just spending all that time, the COVID lockdown was such a gift of time for a lot of people. It was a very, hard season. It was difficult, but a lot of people kind of stepped into like new hobbies during that time and some things that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten to do. So that was definitely a season where I, took the time and put in the hours to learn, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, great. So we asked this for a lot of our guests that come on, particularly who love anime. Can you give us your top 5 favorite animes or American cartoons? Either one is okay.
And this can be past or all time, current. Yeah.
Just to make it even harder.
No pressure. Now that I have kids, like, the amount of cartoons I watch is like, it's almost everything I watch now. So I could go.
One of us.
Yes. I would say in no order, because it's impossible to order them by favorite, but anything Studio Ghibli, I'm just going to put into one category, because and now I've gotten my daughter on them and she loves them too, which is the best. So anything Studio Ghibli, I really like. I mean, Death Note is one of my favorites. And I've enjoyed Black Clover recently. It gets a lot of hate, but I like Sword Art Online. And I really like ReZero. And how many am I at? We can do kids' cartoons. I can go on. I've got Encanto, Bluey. We're all about Bluey in our house.
Those are some good ones. And I agree with you. Sword Art Online gets a lot of hate, but it's so good. Yeah. I think that's what really got us into anime in like the more recent times.
I think that was one of the first ones I watched. And I was like, okay, I can get into this.
Yeah, once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah, it pulls you in.
It does.
So the series that we're going to be talking about today is actually in your top favorites list, and that is Death Note. Now, by the name, many of you are like, oh, why would you talk a show that's all about death? Well, because it's important and we can draw parallels from it. That's why. But Kate, for those who may not know what Death Note is, can you go ahead and give us a bit of a summary?
Yes, I will do my best. So it is kind of like a cat-mouse chase between someone who finds a notebook, and this notebook has the power to, once a name is written in it, that person dies. However, in the manner of which it is written in the notebook. So that person has the power to basically decide who lives and dies. And the counterpart is this detective force, and led by someone named L, who is trying to figure out what on earth is happening, because all of these criminals start dying. And so it really is like this cat and mouse chase between the main character, Light, who picks up the notebook, and L, who is trying to stop him. And he doesn't really understand, what's going on until later on. So I did a very poor job of describing it. So
you're spot on with the cat and mouse game.
I would say so, yeah.
Cool. It's hard to sum up because there's so many elements. I mean, it's a very smart show.
There's a lot of moving parts on the show. So you're right, it is a bit difficult to do a full-on comprehensive summary because you have a lot of moving parts, a lot of characters, a lot of twists and turns. Rebecca, this was your first time seeing the series all the way through. You had seen me watch it like here and there, but I want to get your initial thoughts.
So yeah, it was really smart. I like that word that you used there, Kate. It was a very smart, like intellectually stimulating show to watch. And it was very like detective mystery. Are they going to figure out who Kira is? And I wasn't sure what to think about it at first. So when I first started this journey, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's fine. I don't know why I was hesitant about it. Probably because Josh, you had watched it before and I had seen parts of it. But once we got into it, it was really interesting. Like, how is this going to end? You know, spoilers ahead, by the way, listeners. But I kept thinking, is he going to be found out? Like, you're not rooting for the main character, which is really interesting. Yeah, it made it really different. And yeah, it was like, okay, this has to end. But as it got towards the end, I was like, I don't know. Is he going to actually be found out, or is this going to be like a, you know, catch you off guard and actually he's never found out and everyone actually dies. And then that's the show and you go, what? You know, like it could have gone either way. So that was a really nice to watch a show that really kept you on your toes the whole time. Because Josh will tell you, I can pick out themes and stories pretty easily and make very good guesses typically as to what's going to happen.
Very surprised that you were not able to.
Well, it could have gone either way. They were so convincing. Well, it's because Light believed it.
Oh,
he believed that he would win, so much so that he blurted out in that very last episode, I win. And it was like,
Dead giveaway.
Gotcha.
Dead giveaway.
His arrogance was ultimately his downfall in many cases in this show.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, pride and arrogance, absolutely. Yeah, but it was a really good show. Really good show.
It is. It's a fun watch. I mean, not well, maybe not fun, but it's a very stimulating watch, like you said, intellectually. So I really enjoy it. I recommend it a lot to people, especially if they're not typically, you know, anime watchers, because it's not super long. You can finish the whole thing, you know, in a couple weeks, you know, and it's really good.
Yeah. And philosophically gives you a lot to think about. The human condition, you know, are you exacting justice, or is this just plain murder? And it's a lot of the questions that, you know, we're asking ourselves. Light is asking himself in the beginning, and the detective force is asking about, you know, Kira. So, Kate, I want you to go ahead and take us down one of the themes for the show, and we'll kind of go ahead and spawn off our discussion from there.
Yeah, so I would say where I land first is the philosophical question, you know, as humans or as a human, should light have the power to, you know, basically play a judge, you know, like is to decide who deserves to die and who deserves to live? Like, should humans be given, do we have a sense of justice that is accurate? You know, like, should our sense of justice be, you know?
So for me, I think as humans, you know, in our finite wisdom, that our view of justice is subjective. It has elements of being objective, but we mostly view justice from our own values and beliefs, and that is different for everybody. So I don't think being a completely objective person who can judge, I don't think that's 100% feasible. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, the Bible says, you know, our thoughts are not God's thoughts and our ways are not God's ways. And yeah, he gave us a sense of innate justice. That's sort of like our conscience that tells us kind of what's good and bad and all of that. But we are not the ultimate judge. And Light is so specific in calling himself the god of the new world. That takes this judgment situation into a whole new level of just really blasphemy, you know? So, yeah.
What I found interesting was it showed the amount of support that he quickly, garnered.
Which was wild. Yeah. I mean, we have the cult of Keto, which is basically just a new religion, almost like a church. And
well, they really did. In episode 31 is when we really see the clergy of the Church of Kita come to light. And it was like, really, guys? Really? Like, there's supporters, and then there's like truly creating a religious system.
Right.
And to this vein, Rebecca, what you said, or either you, Kate, sorry, I was listening. I know it was said. I can't remember who said it. This whole thing of like, being God, exalting yourself as a God, because that's worked out so well for many people in the past, hasn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. They definitely haven't all died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Rebecca, you and I were talking a little bit before, or earlier today, about, one prime example is, the Tower of Babel. People thought that they could build a tower to heaven, and God just said no. In fact, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of languages that not everyone can understand.
Yeah, how wild. God's pretty serious about that whole becoming a god thing. He's like, you cannot. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Light, for a while, he really struggled with this idea of justice, of can I be the person to enact this justice or not? And he really went through that struggle. And then at some point, pretty early on, he made a turn. He's flipped a switch, and he was the villain throughout the rest of the show. Yeah. What point was that for you, Kate?
There's several points where I'm like, in the beginning, you want to root for him because, just with any show, you typically root for the main character. So you're hearing his inner monologue, and you're like really hearing him wrestle with, why was this given to me? Like, why am I the one who found it? It's fate, and I must become this new, this judge of, good and evil. And anyway, so there's a point where, for me, where there was like no turning back, and it was where he sends a woman to her death because she's getting too close to figuring out who he is. And not only does he send her to her death, but he kind of gloats in it. And I was like, he's gone. He's been fully corrupted by this notebook and by this power. And there's other moments too, but for me, that one it kind of gave me chills, there was no going back.
Yeah, it's like he had used the notebook previously to kill the criminals and everything. And it's like, on some level, you kind of agree.
Yeah.
Right? With Light, you're like, oh, you're kind of right. It would be easier. Life would be better.
Right. But now it's like, anybody who gets in my way.
Right. It completely takes a turn.
When he, well, I guess we're going to do spoilers, but when he kills the person posing as Elle, on the television, that's another instance. It's like, okay, he didn't really know what this person did, but he killed him out of inconvenience for himself. So at that point, it's like no longer, I'm going to only kill, bad people. But to him, he didn't really know that was a person that was meant to be killed, that day on, that he was already a criminal. So.
Smart of them to use people on death row already to like draw out Kita and his actions. I thought that was really smart that they did that. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite twists in the show where, you think, this person, like, is that Elle? And then it's, not only somebody on death row, but Elle was able to narrow Kira's location just from where he broadcasted that message to Kira. So I thought I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was really smart. Elle's like whole character is fascinating to me, and how he thought about stuff. It was like, how did you come to that conclusion so quickly? That's amazing.
He's just a fun character. I think he's adorable. He's quirky and he loves sweets. I'm like, you are one of my favorite characters in anime.
Yeah, he's that perfect blend between, a fun, quirky guy, but also like a genius. And like his deductive reasoning throughout the whole show up until, unfortunately, his demise is just incredible.
Yeah, he played that game well until the end.
You really see a respect between Light and Elle. So even though Light knows that Elle is, trying to stop him, and Elle is pretty certain that Light is Kira, there's this mutual respect, or I don't know if it is respect, and kind of they both kind of have admiration for each other's abilities, and I think and it kind of plays off of one another, because I feel like it could have ended sooner, but they almost enjoyed the game.
You're probably right. It probably could have ended sooner. It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin. One is the Light, who is the false light, and then you have Elle, who's shrouded in mystery and darkness, but he's actually good. So it's like this weird juxtaposition of the two characters. And then for Light to kill Elle and become Elle, it was really interesting, masquerading as someone who's good and yet on the inside is rotten.
Yes, absolutely. What were your thoughts about I had some notes written down just about the biblical parallels, but I was so drawn to that episode right before, or it might have been the same episode where, spoilers, where Elle is killed. And there's that scene on the rooftop that is so fascinating to me, because it reminded me of when Jesus predicts his death. And he, because there's a foot washing scene as well, or a massage or whatever. I think it's really kind of intentionally drawing a parallel of, Jesus's last, day after being betrayed. And so I was really drawn to that scene on the rooftop where he asks Light, tell me, have you ever been honest about anything in your life, or have you ever told the truth? And I don't know, and then the music stops and it becomes dead silent. And that's just one of my favorite scenes in the whole anime.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since we've watched that particular episode, but I think I remember. What was there a foot washing scene in the show?
I don't believe yeah, like an actual foot wash. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Once you mentioned that, yeah, that's interesting.
Light sees Elle on the rooftop, and Elle basically predicts his own death, and he said he can sense that his time is coming, and he says, "Do you hear the bells?" And
it's pouring down rain, right?
Right, absolutely, that's the one.
Okay. Yes, I remember that one.
It made my heart hurt, and I was like, it's just fascinating, because you can tell that he knows that his time is coming, and he knows Light is Kira, but he just doesn't have, exact proof that, he needs to, bring him down for it. And they come inside, and Elle massages his feet or whatever, and it really is an intentional parallel of Jesus washing his disciples' feet, and he including washing Judas's feet after being betrayed. And then right after that, almost, I think it's in the next episode or at the end of that episode where he dies.
Yeah. I mean, if we're comparing Light to Judas, he's like Judas times 10. He's just betraying everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very unique parallel. Again, as we said, it's been a little while since we've seen that, but absolutely can see that. And you know, L being able to predict or foresee his own death. That's just, I don't know how I could grapple with that if I knew the day of my own death. Nathan, that's a very moment. I don't know honestly how I could internalize that.
It'd be hard to deal with.
I know where I would be the end all be all, but still, something about that.
Yeah. It's really humbling for one.
I want to discuss the character of Ryuk for a moment.
Oh, yes.
The Shinigami.
Who loves apples.
Yes.
Ironically.
And we'll get to that symbolism here in a moment. But yeah, Ryuk is the Shinigami, who's basically a demon.
He's a god of death, is what he's officially known as, right?
Okay.
But there's like a whole world of the Shinigamis,
right,
which are the gods of death.
When they show this world of the Shinigamis, I think they were trying to liken it to like purgatory almost. Because like Ryuk says when he first interacts with light, it's like, oh, you have my notebook. Here are the conditions of it. Whoever has touched or picked up the notebook, whoever uses it, when they die, they don't go to heaven, they don't go to hell. They go to they go to where I am, which is this wasteland of just.
So is it that they become Shinigami?
I wonder about that.
Because they've killed so many people, they've already used the notebook.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it would make sense, yeah.
And it is a sort of purgatory, hell in its own way. Never to die, bored, having to write people's names in notebooks forever.
Yeah, because
Light would love that.
Yeah, he would.
The condition that Ryuk makes with, or the deal that he makes with Light, is that I'll write your name down in my notebook when it comes time, for you to die. And he makes the deal to have the eye. Does he ever get the eyes of the Shinigami? Or no, that was just Misa.
He convinces everyone around him to get them.
Right?
Gosh, such a jerk.
Yeah. He's so manipulative. Wow.
But okay, you had something about the apples, which Ryuk that's his like favorite thing about the human world, basically. So with apples, what I know for the symbolism, we can go all the way back to Genesis and talk about knowledge being the symbol of original sin, knowledge. So go ahead and take us down that path for a moment.
Yeah, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? And so the apple is like a parallel, the representation. We don't know that it was an apple in the Bible, but the fruit of temptation, the fruit that Eve, was deceived to take a bite out of, we could say was an apple. And I see a lot of parallels for, Light finding this notebook and given this ability to basically play judge and know about this world of Shinigamis and gain this power. And the Shinigami that is tied to him, has a thing with apples. So just a really interesting, symbolism.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't think about it necessarily being tied with the knowledge of good and evil. But I think you're so right. I think that really works well for the story and just being given this opportunity to know. Even like the eyes of the Shinigami is almost like the apple or the fruit of this particular world of, here I can show you all of the names of these people who you could kill and their lifespans, but you have to give up half of your lifespan in order.
Which is just crazy because you don't know how long you're going to live. They could have just seen the last 5 years you had.
Yeah, and I wonder too if like those people who had the eyes, when they when they gave it up or like became involved with light, did their lifespan just immediately go down? Or, like I wonder if it fluctuated.
That's interesting. If that would change, when they were initially meant to die just from being involved in the whole. Yeah, that's interesting to think about. Because we know that Misa made the deal twice, so her life was cut in half twice. And then Light's father also made the deal, I think. It's just many people around him. I believe so. And so many people around him ended up making that deal, and Light was able to use that to his advantage to gain information. So definitely interesting.
Yeah. Kind of switching gears for a little bit. I want to talk about Light's theatrics.
What an actor.
There are so many, but before we get to that, like, I almost felt a little bit sorry for him because he makes a deal with Ryuk that has the few words to get rid of it. And basically, he's written a famous character from the notebook to give to Misa. So when it's time, he can remember everything that he's done with the notebook, but he temporarily forgets all his history, all the interactions he's had with the notebook, that he's even like killed people. But he has some semblance of what's going on. So that shift when he tells Ryuk to get rid of it, like just the eyes that change from like, a person who's plotting or scheming to a person who's like, innocent. You don't know what's going on, believes that they've done nothing wrong. Especially where Light's father takes him and Misa out into the car and goes to execute him. That was talking about an adrenaline rush. For me personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, either of you want to go on with the theatric? There's a lot of moments for him.
He's a bit of a drama queen, I would say. You could really, I did like that scene, for example, what you brought up. I really enjoyed watching him forget that he was Kira, just because you could see kind of like the possession of the Death Note leave him almost. Like maybe possession isn't the right word, but the
corruption of power.
Yes, yeah. And I was like almost back to rooting for him after that, because I was like, okay, maybe he's like not all bad, and he's really trying to genuinely. It kind of shows that the corruption of the Death Note, like what it did to him.
Yeah, it's almost like who he would have been without it.
Yeah, basically.
He could have been such a good kid. He could have been L. He could have been an amazing policeman. Like, there's so much potential that he had. And because of the corruption of that Death Note and the choices he made as a result, it just turned his life into something else.
Yeah, well, he did become L. He became an anti-L, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, when L dies and Light just acts so concerned, he's like, he's dead and we're next. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Mm-hmm. There's that little smile he gives to L, like as he's holding him, it was so hard to watch. I was like, come on, like the last thing that L sees, like he definitely knows like he was Kira, at least he knows he was right about it. But I was like, man, that was. What do you all think about the potato chip scene? Do you know what scene I'm talking about? Where he's like writing names in the notebook. So they have all the cameras set up in his room and the task force is watching them. So it's his way of writing names without them knowing. And so he's like, first I'll take a chip and I'll eat it. And this like crazy music is going on in the background.
So dramatic. Also, how did he get and read a TV that was that small to put in the chip bag? Like, how could you see that? I couldn't see that.
So, okay. So side note, I've actually was on Amazon searching for something similar not like small TVs, but like small electronics. They actually make TVs this size.
Wow.
It's like what was that? Is the Viewer Pro or something? It's a little thing that for kids, and you had like these little discs that had like 2 episodes of the cartoon on it. The screen though, it's tiny, and it was in black and white, not even color. I'm like, what kid would want that?
It's like this generation's hit clips. Do you remember those?
Oh, goodness, yes. That's so funny.
The best 30 seconds of your life or minute or whatever.
But yeah, his theatrics were off the charts. It was really interesting though to see the show that he put on the outside, but then also see the truth of what was on the inside. I found that really interesting as a viewer to be able to see both sides. And even know that there's people out in the world like that.
Oh, yeah.
That exist. That are the most nice, amazing, wonderful person. And then on the inside, though, they are not who you think they are.
So the lesson for today for everybody is trust no one.
No. Oh, gosh.
It was very... because you see how stoic he is and how he's so good at putting on that, facade of, a good policeman and, someone who is good. He's so good at playing that part that when he finally does, break at the end, when he's finally found out by Nier, it was very jarring. I was like, this is it. It was kind of hard to watch because he becomes... he kind of goes crazy at the end and is desperate, which you don't really see him acting desperate for the rest of the series. He's calm and collected, but then he kind of loses his cool. And I think that's a really cool scene as well.
Well, right, because when he says, oh, I win, and like nothing happens, it's like, I was set up. And it's like, oh, no. That's a confession that I've ever heard one.
Yeah, you dug your own hole there, your own grave on that one. That was too far. And then, gosh, to be able to see the fun and exciting cop who's just like the young kid. What did we say his name was? Matsuda?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matsuda, one of my favorite characters. I love him. He was great. He was actually someone I could like root for and feel good about it. But he was the one to just see him watching Light go on this breakdown and going crazy, really losing his mind. And it was just so sad to be like, Light, no, why? How could you do this to us the whole time? And that was really heartbreaking. And then for him to like pull out that gun and shoot him, it was like, oh my goodness, he was the one to do that.
It is interesting that he was ultimately the one to kind of end it. And so I thought that is interesting.
Now, we know that we're talking about a show that's all, gloomy about death, and that is the majority of what it is. But don't worry, kids. There is a little bit of romance in this. A dark romance, that is. So we had 2 main love interests for Light, and none of it is reciprocated by Light himself.
No, he's a true psychopath.
Yeah. We have Misa Misa, who's like a model actress, who actually is the second Kira for a lot of the series. And so she's just over the moon with Light and will just do anything for him because he is also an avenger of justice. How delusional she is and just takes Light at his word.
Well, she believes in his ideals.
Yeah.
Both of them do.
But just to follow so blindly.
It is interesting. She's because like Rebecca said, she believes in his ideals. It would be interesting to know like what she would have done with her notebook had she not connected with Light. Or I thought about that as I was watching. Well, because she, gets a notebook and, connects with the first Kita light and is basically, under his spell and does everything that he asks of her. And it'd be interesting to know, what she would have done had that not happened. So, because I can't tell, I don't believe that she was I don't know that she had the same drive to be a god as Light did.
Yeah, I think they were different, for sure in their beliefs. Yeah, you're right. I don't think she really wanted to be a god or create a new world or anything like that. She just liked the ideals that Light had about killing criminals and making it a safer place.
Right.
And that was driven by her own past, if I remember right. With her parents, I think, dying.
Her parents die, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's traumatic. That's traumatic.
Yeah, kind of, sad for her character. And, ultimately, she gives up on living at the end, which is very sad as well.
Well, it's heavily implied,
right?
right?
Well, yeah, it's heavily implied.
I don't actually see it.
Right. But the other love interest is Kiyone Takeda, who actually becomes the spokesperson for the, I guess we would call it the third Kira. But who
can't keep track. So many of them.
Yeah. What was the guy's real name though? Is
who? Mitsumi? That guy?
Mika Mitsumi?
Mikami. I wrote it down.
Oh
yeah.
Mikami. Yeah. And he's just delete, just like me when I wrote a bad turn paper. But yeah, because he first meets Takeda in university, and she seems very infatuated with him. But then they kind of have just not falling out. They just kind of just go separate ways, and then they kind of reconvene back when she becomes the spokesperson, and him trying to get intel, but yet Takeda is another person that is getting in his way, and he literally just writes her off.
Yeah.
At least he gives Misa the courtesy for her to do it herself.
Everyone dies.
And everyone dies, and they say that's the whole point of the show. But again, we want to stress that while this is largely about death, it's all about death. It makes you question kind of like what do you value? What do you see as justice? If you were given this ability to, kill criminals or have literally the power to play God, would you? And that's the question I want to ask both of you. So, Kate, if you had the ability and knowing that you can make the world a better place, would you play God?
I think that the pre-follower of Jesus version of me would have a different answer than the current one would, because obviously on the surface level you're like, oh, rid the world of murderers? Yeah, that's great. No more murder, no more I think in the show eventually people stopped committing crimes because they don't want to be found out by Kita, and so they're like, you kind of think, okay, that sounds nice. No one breaking the law, no one stealing or murdering. But ultimately, are we meant to be the judge? That the Bible tells us that, no sin is, greater than another. And so it's, I don't believe that we're meant to have that ability, to make that ultimate judgment. We can speak truth unto others, and, but yeah, that's kind of where I would stand.
All right. Rebecca?
Yeah, really similar answer. On the surface, you're right, Kate. It looks really nice. It's a really nice package that is presented with this idea of cleansing the world of all evil and stopping all of the wrongdoing. But, it's like that is done from a place of fear. rather than true transformation and out of an encounter with love with God. And that's not real peace, because that's the ultimate goal of light, is peace. And I've really come to be settled in my belief that the world is evil. There are evil things that happen in the world, evil people, evil deeds, bad choices, all of these things. And while they are horrible and awful and wish none of that upon anyone, God has his own purpose for it, and to grow us and to draw us closer to him. And so while it really sucks to all of the evil, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to us, I trust in God, that he will ultimately use all of this for good, and that we have a hope in Jesus and where we're going once we die. And so I hold on to that hope. And so I'm learning, the older I get, the more I learn that my judgment is not sound at all. And so leaning on God to make those judgments is a smarter thing to do.
Absolutely. And I'll just give my short and sweet answer, along with you two. Obviously, the answer is no. But yeah, I feel it's just too much of a heavy burden, honestly, to exact, judgment. I mean, I know my judgment, even though I feel I make good choices, is not anywhere near the level of God's perfect judgment. When we get to the end of human history, as prescribed in the book of Revelation, God is the one who's going to exact, justice, vengeance, and in his holy manner. And I think to believe or even have the inkling of the thought that I could exact, perfect justice, perfect will, I'm just deluding myself, really. So I'm going to let the ultimate judge be the ultimate judge, and just try to do my best and have hope, and try to make good choices and try to be a light in the world. Not like Yagami, but a better light.
The true light.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that his name is Light too? Just like I meant to bring that up earlier, but it's just another parallel, because anyway. Yeah, because Lucifer, Satan, his name means light.
Does it? I didn't know that.
Let me look it up so I'm not just like speaking some gibberish, but I'm pretty sure.
I know he was the angel that focused a lot on worship and creativity. At least I think that's right.
The interesting is Yagami actually means two things. So light is the perfect symbolism of yin and yang, because Yagami in Japanese, when translated to English, means night.
Oh.
And it is also synonymous with God as well.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting. Wow, his name is telling so much. Mm-hmm. Light Yagami.
Yeah, I love the little tidbits like that just kind of give you a foretelling when you really do the research for it.
Yeah, and wasn't there something with the creator too, that like he had a fascination with Christianity? I don't think he wasn't a Christian, but he had a fascination with it. Is that right, Josh? Do you remember?
I don't believe so. I know that there are a lot of like directors and creators in Japanese anime who do draw a heavy influence from the Western religion.
I thought it was this one. And he's like creating another one that's similar. Or maybe that was Platinum End.
I think it was Platinum End, maybe.
Okay. Different person.
Which is a whole nother thing. Not quite that dark, but a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that one was hard to watch.
Well, you didn't even make it all the way through.
I know.
I need a new one to watch. I might check it out.
It's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. That one for me was like watching the first episode of Has Been Hotel. Like, what are we watching here? I don't know about this one. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we have gone in a lot of directions, very comprehensive directions. We're talking about Death Note. There are so many other parallels and so many other themes in this show that it's impossible to do them all in one episode. We encourage you, even if you're not a lover or interested in anime, definitely give this show a watch. It is available on Netflix. I know like 90% of you have Netflix. So go ahead and check it out. As Kate said, you can finish it within 2 weeks. If you're really gung-ho about it, you can finish it in a weekend. But yeah. So Kate, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. For those that want to keep up with what you're doing and know more about you, where can they find you?
So you can listen to my music on Spotify. You can find me at Kate Puckett. You can find me on Instagram, Kate Songs. Basically, if you type in Kate Puckett on YouTube or Spotify, anywhere like that, you'll find my music. And hopefully within, the next couple months, I'll have some new music coming out, some worship music. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Well, you guys go ahead and show her some love and give her a like and a follow. We'll have the links down to her socials as well as her Spotify in the description. Until next time, keep those halos shining and stay holy, my friends.